Hope everyone is doing well today. Excited to go through some of the content we have today. Some of the things that we've been working on are not only really important for today's training, but just important for Art of Homeownership members in general. We'll be talking a little bit about kind of the deliverables as an Art of Homeownership professional. What it takes, to ask the right questions, how to be a true advisor. We're going to touch a little bit on the trade up program that we had been talking about a couple weeks ago. We've had a lot of questions on the trade up program, so I want to make sure we have some Q&A around that. And then we're going to get into, kind of the mindset portion of it, which is going to be, what is winning? What does that mean? How does confidence play into that? And then how does the process play into all of that? So one thing I do want to mention, I was fresh off a call here for all of the Art of Homeownership lending partners on the call right now. Connect my phone real fast here. There we go. All right. Okay, so Val, you can hear me? All right, hopefully we're good. So I just got off a presentation that I did with a group, Art of Homeownership real estate team that we have on the platform with us. And one of the things I realized was they were not equipped with how to have the conversation with buyers and with sellers. And so we just did a scripting session where basically the real estate team acted like the buyer, and they said, hey, I'm talking to a bunch of different buyers agents, and why should I use you? And then we went into our before, during, and after script, how we helped them before, how we helped them during, and most importantly, how we helped them after. And then we did the same thing with a seller or a homeowner. I'm interviewing different agents and listing presentations. Why should I use you? And then I went through it, and man, it was really powerful. It was something that I'm bummed that we didn't do earlier with a lot of our real estate teams, but we will definitely be going on a full road trip, or at least a Zoom road trip, to all of our real estate partners and all of our prospective real estate partners to show them how impactful this can be. Because when you get done going through a script as a real estate professional and going through the process of talking to a client about why you, it's almost impossible to imagine a world where they use another real estate professional. I just can't think of a world where if it's done correctly, that they would use another listing agent or they would use another agent to help them buy their home. So I would empower you all as lenders to walk through it with your prospective partners or your current partners on the platform. And Val and Cece, if you guys are on this, we should do a kind of a mock one and then put it on the e-learning platform for how to script it for real estate professionals. So maybe we can just set that up next week. We probably want to schedule an hour for it. Anybody have any questions on how to, either maybe if you're a real estate professional on this platform, how to script it, or if you're a lending professional on the platform, how to help your real estate professionals acquire and convert more of their business? Feel free to raise your hand, type in the Q&A. All right, we can come back to that if I see any questions pop up. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we will get going. Let's make sure I have the right tab up. Okay. Here we go. Cool. So hopefully everybody can see this. So the first thing we want to talk about today is, why is being an Art of Homeownership professional so important? So there is an article here, and there's a link actually in this deck. So if you click this, I'll click in a second. That shows that nearly 2/3, or 64% of millennials, ages 25 to 40, say they have at least one regret about purchasing a home, according to a poll that Bankrate did. 45% of Gen Xers, 33% of baby boomers, 43% of all homeowners have one regret about buying their home. So as I was reading this, I actually incorporated it into my why you conversation. If you're a real estate agent or a lender, please make this a part of when you're, because ultimately, guys, what we're doing here is we're influencing. Right? We influence prospective homeowners, home buyers, home financiers. We influence them as to why we are the most appropriate person for them to work with, short-term and long-term, in their real estate and financial goals. Now, I never call it selling because I think selling is maybe it is the right word, but I just never use it because I feel like selling connotates, convincing somebody of something that may or may not be true, right? Like selling them on why you're the best. You just need to help them understand in a very clear way why you, right? Like why are you going to be more impactful in their livelihood than anybody else? And if this is not part of your conversation, it definitely should be. So if someone says why you, say, look, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you're you may not want to guess their age. That may be a challenge, but let's say, look, 43% of all homeowners, and assume they're a millennial maybe. If you're a millennial, 64% of millennials have regrets about buying their home after they've bought the home. And it's clear why that's the case. Because the process that most people go through has been dumbed down to the lowest common denominator that you could possibly imagine. So you literally could click a couple buttons, get approved for a mortgage, write an offer on a home, get it accepted, and be a homeowner in 30 to 45 days without learning a single thing prior to doing it. So you can only imagine how many regrets people have after the fact because they didn't take the time to work with a real professional going into it. So I want to be clear, and I'll send you this article, Mr. Buyer, but one of the things it says is, people tend to focus so much on actually being able to buy a home that many times there's a sense that everything else will resolve itself once the initial purchase is completed. Take some time and let that sit in. This is the largest financial transaction you're likely going to make at any point in your life, and they may increase over time. But who in their right mind would do something like that, assuming that everything will resolve itself once the purchase is completed? I mean, and that's really what our competitors are trying to do, right? That's what the Quickens and the click button get mortgages of the world are trying to accomplish. Don't worry, just buy the house. Everything else will work out. We're definitely not going to help you afterwards. So hopefully it works out. Like, that's our competitor. If that doesn't give you all the confidence in the world to go take over the entire market share in your market and beyond, I don't know what will, but that's what we're facing. And it says the reality is that it's just the beginning of the homeownership experience. After the initial excitement is worn off, many homeowners are left with a regret or two, something they wish they'd done differently. Use this article, right? So you click on it here, it will open up the article. It's a CNBC article, and you can read through the whole thing. I highly recommend you read through the whole thing. I'm not going to bore you with it. It's got all the reasons why people have different regrets. Underestimating costs. How to avoid regrets, do homework, all that kind of stuff. So again, make sure you're using this article. And this is why I want to get into now, why it's so important to be an art of homeownership professional, because 99% of our competitors are actually encouraging this type of behavior. They're the reasons people have regrets, right? But our community, our art of homeownership community, is a small but growing community that is going to impact the fact that this happens. Like, you all should, everybody here and everybody who's on Art of Homeownership should feel inspired and confident when you start your day, because you know what we're working with. You should feel extremely safe in the fact that you're going to have a career for a very long time, not just a job that somebody will turn off at some point. And you should feel extremely fulfilled when you go to sleep at night, to the point where you know that you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. So let's get into how that works, right? Because we've got a lot of questions about that. Oh, sorry, went to the article again. Click over here. There we go. So there's a certain process, and I was listening to a podcast with the trainer of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and he talks about everybody wants the result, but nobody wants to do the work. And I think that's extremely true in every industry, but I think especially the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, right? They want the results, but they don't want to put in the time or the energy and the effort to be the person who will then get those results. And that's just not going to work. So The first thing we want to do is we want to create and define the customer deliverables that we'll commit to every time. Now, good thing is, as an art of homeownership partner, you have this, right? Most of our competitors don't. Most of our competitors have what they kind of call a process, but they spend 5 to 10 minutes on the phone. They send out an online application. They, have the client fill out some stuff online. They get them some documents. They get a pre-approval letter. That's not a deliverable, right? That's just a process that something goes through. So you want to figure out how to help a client before they become a client, which is incredibly important. And look, the biggest thing we can all do, and hopefully you guys were able to watch the Art of Homeownership session we did with Barry and Dan Rawich. Like, we're in for a pretty good run of opportunity here. Right? We should see a really strong market through this year. We should see recession in 2022, 2023, which means rates are going to be coming down, which means that we have an opportunity to help a lot of families. But we're not going to help anywhere near as many families as we could unless we start getting to them before they become a client. So you need to define what that process is. How are you going to use Art of Homeownership to get to people before they want to buy, sell, or finance a home? And we've done plenty of trainings on it. If you guys need more trainings on it or want more trainings on it, please let us know. But you can and should adopt hundreds, if not thousands, of new clients that you did not do a transaction for, that you will do a transaction for, and that you will help because you have a suite of services to offer them that they will find value in. So the key is, okay, once they become a client of ours, again, not a transaction, but a client. So as soon as they are in your Art of Homeownership system, you should treat them the same way you treat every other past client. And you should know, okay, here's what they're getting, right? Here's what we're doing. We're going to do an initial financial review. We're going to do an analysis of their situation. We're going to give them all the Art of Homeownership suite of services. We're going to help them figure out how they can get from one home to the next in the most appropriate manner. Or if they don't own a home, we're going to help them figure out how they can get into a home with a really great buyer strategy. So make sure you have that deliverable and make sure you tell people about it. Next is the initial dreams and goals call. And like, everybody deserves this. I heard somebody a couple days ago say they spent about 5 minutes on the phone with the client, and it was in a kind of a, I don't want to say a braggadocious way, but they're like, oh, I only spent like 5 minutes, and then my team takes over and then, goes into the system, and I never talk to them again. And they were happy about that. And I'm like, brother, you are quicken. Like, sorry, but the client's not getting any advice, not getting any guidance, not getting any value. And like, that person will lose long term, right? Or they'll have to be the cheapest, which is another form of losing, in my opinion. So take the time and do that intake call. And we're going to get into some more about what that is here in a second, because I know there were some questions on it. And be a student, right? There's a reason why your Art of Homeownership platforms comes with an MBS Highway subscription, because we believe it's important to really understand at the core of the mortgage industry how it works, right? Because then you can explain that to the client, and then you can be incredibly valuable to them in terms of helping them analyze their lock strategy, helping them, look at the market and trends and figuring out when appropriate times to accomplish things are. And MBS Highway and Barry created the CMA, the Certified Mortgage Advisor platform, which helps you. I think if you become a CMA professional, I know some of you on here are, a CMA certified professional and an Art of Homeownership certified professional, it's just like an unbeatable combination, right? Because you understand how the front end of the mortgage market works, and then you have solutions for, prior, during, and far after the transaction. So it would be really challenging to overcome that if you're the competitor of that person. Next is consultations. Make sure you're spending the time, right? Do the pre-purchase consultations, do the refinance analysis consultations, show them the options, right? Go through what they're going to get long-term. If any of you are having pricing challenges right now, right? If you're getting rate shopped, which is prevalent at the moment, right? Because of the demand and affordability, it's likely because you're not doing a good enough job in your dreams and goals call and your consultation, right? You're not really setting the value proposition. They don't, if you ask them when they go in contract, what's the most valuable thing about you as the lender? If they just say good communication, customer service, you've missed the boat, right? Like, you're not even using the system at that point. They should say, we're using this team because they're committed to helping us for 30 years, and they've been amazing at helping us getting an offer accepted. They've helped us incredibly with the solutions and the education and going into this process. We expect nothing but a phenomenal customer service experience. But the most important part is the next 30 years when we don't know what we don't know and they do. If you don't hammer that home, if that's not very clear in these consultations, then you will get rate shopped and you will lose clients, and you quite honestly should, right? Because they don't know the difference between you and someone else who's promising to close their transaction. So make sure that the deliverable of the consultation is there every time. Next is going to be contract meetings. If you're not doing these, again, I think you almost deserve to lose the business. And I know it sucks. I know it's not fun to hear. But if you don't have that as a part of your deliverable experience, and I did a meeting with a new real estate group yesterday, and I asked all of them, and they've all been in the business for quite some time. I said, what's the most nerve-wracking, anxiety-ridden time in the entire real estate process, from the first phone call to after closing? And they're like, oh, getting an offer accepted or this, that, or the other. And no one knew it, but it was right when the offer gets accepted. You have such a high anxiety client at that point. Maybe they paid too much for the house. Maybe the payment's too high. Maybe the rate's gone up. Maybe they are second guessing if it's the right home. And then the onslaught of paperwork and documents and money they need to pay, and earnest money deposit needs to be sent, and all these things are going through their head. If we don't take the time to wrap our arms around that client as an art of homeownership professional, realtor and lender, and really bring them back down to a safe space and talk about the long-term strategy that we have in place for them and show them how art of homeownership is going to guarantee that they're successful, then they may pull out of the transaction, or they may just go the cheap route because they don't know otherwise. And then during the transaction, you have we can't do what we want to do as art of homeownership professionals if we are not life-changing during the process. If they just have an average or below average experience, they're not even going to want us to be a part of their life for the next 30 years. So make sure your client experience is buttoned up. Make sure that you and all your team has appropriate service level agreements. Like, this is how quickly we'll get back to clients. This is how fast we return emails. This is how fast we return phone calls. This is the gifts that go out. This is when they go out. This is how they go out. And some of you may be thinking, I don't have the team or infrastructure to do all that. Well, then, go to your company and say, look, we need to build this. Like, at our company, we have a group that does nothing but that. They just focus on client experience for everybody. So it can be done. It doesn't need to be done solely by you, right? But it can be done with a group of people. It doesn't need to just be on your shoulders. But your client experience and your gifting process is really what keeps the client wanting you to stay close to them for years to come. If it's just an average experience, or even worse, below average, you're not even going to get to allow them to have art of homeownership because they were somewhat underwhelmed with your 30 days. They don't want to talk to you for 30 years. The post-closing call. Again, if you're wondering why art of homeownership may not be getting the connection with your clients, it's because they were nervous going into the home buying process. So maybe it didn't sink in. They were anxious and fearful when they got the offer accepted. They were, crazy busy and their head was spinning during the process. And now that the transaction closed, if you don't spend that 20 minutes with them explaining the next 30 years of your relationship and how you're going to be a part of their world, then they won't get it. They're going to miss that. So the post-closing call is incredibly important as a deliverable. So just make sure that's happening. And then art of homeownership services and continual delivery of value, right? So this is where they're in the system. The annual financial reviews are happening. You're following up with people to ask how are they doing with the experience. How's art of homeownership treating you? Is there anything you need help with? Analyze their HomeBot analytics. Make sure they're using the concierge to the best of their ability. Just do all that stuff, and you'll find that you have a much better experience, and definitely they will as well. So I'm going to go back here a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments or want any more definition on any one of these deliverables and how they should work that into their process? Cool. And again, if you do, we can do presentations on any single one of these items and do trainings on them. Just let us know where you need more training, right? Let us know where where your holes in your process are. And if all these aren't your deliverables, then chunk them off one at a time, right? Start here and go down the list. And you'll find that if you accomplish this list, you are top 0.01% of our industry. All right, moving on. Yeah, keep track of time here. Okay, all right, we got one question here. Let's see. After the loan funds, who is managing if they're utilizing the home concierge service to the fullest? Great question. So if you have a customer success manager or a post-closing manager, when they're doing their annual, they do the 3-month post-closing call, they do the 6-month post-closing call, and they do the annual reviews every year, they're asking on each one of those calls. So 3 months after closing, 6 months after using the concierge, keep in mind that these annual reviews are important, and just go through all those things at a high level. Hopefully that answered your question, Alicia. All right. So now, one of the questions I had asked was asking the right questions. See if that's just a yes. Thank you. Okay, cool. So we've done trainings on this extensively, right? With the dreams and goals call, and you have to really consider yourself the most important person in your client's life when it comes to real estate or finance. When you put that moniker on yourself, it's almost impossible not to try and live up to it. So that's the most important part. May have been my laptop, but you cut out for the majority of the last answer. Lori's saying I cut out for the last answer. Did anybody else not hear me? Sorry, guys. I did not. Okay, let me go back to that last answer real quick. So Alicia asked who manages the fact that they're using the services post-closing. So customer success manager or post-closing manager should be a role you have on your team if you have enough transactions, or it should be a role that your company provides for you on a regional basis. That person's going to do the 3-month call, the 6-month call, and the annual reviews. And as they're doing those calls, they're asking, hey, are you using the home concierge? If not, here's why you should. Do you want me to resend it? Do you need me to help you re-engage? Are you looking at the annual or the real estate wealth digest as they come out? Go in and see if they are, right? And I can see you're looking at it. Do you have any questions? Can we help you with it? Let's make sure you keep doing the annual financial reviews. Know that we're going to be managing your mortgage for you. So they basically just go over art of homeownership in each one of those calls. And if you don't have that person, then whoever it is, whether it's you or someone on your team that's doing those annual reviews, that's when you want to engage and just ask, hey, are you using the system? How can we help you with it? Again, we want to make sure that never sell your home without maximizing the sales price. If you are ever planning the selling, let us know well in advance. We can buy your new home all cash, all those things, right? So you just get into it on the consistency of it all. Looks like we have a hand raised. Did we unmute Pinky? Team, can we unmute Pinky? It looks like she raised her hand. Let's see here. Oh, no question. Okay, it was a false hand raise. No worries. Cool. Brent saying, is a 3.9, there's a 3-9 month call task schedule for us in Daily Eye, or should we create that task? Great question, Brent. So no, the only task that's in the actual CRM for Art of Homeownership is the 12-month. So the client's going to get notified of the annual financial review every year. They're going to get sent your link where they can schedule that directly on your calendar. So it's only required or only suggested that you do the annual review. However, I think the 3-month and the 6-month follow-up call are incredibly important. We just didn't want to overwhelm everybody. Not everybody has bandwidth to do that. Not everybody has the system and the team and the infrastructure to do that. If you do, I'd highly recommend doing it. If you don't, really take a hard look at that customer success manager role and figure out if you can partner with other people to hire that person, if your company will hire that person, or if you can build it within your own team or organization. But great question. All right, so now let's move into the holistic personal finance portion of asking the right questions. So as I was saying, when you've committed to being that person in your client's life, it's really tough to not be that person, right? It kind of irks at you and tugs at your heart that like you said you're going to be someone, but then you're not. And so when I heard that the other day, this guy spends 5 to 10 minutes on the phone with the client, basically saying how great he is, and then just kicks them over to the team for the application and the documents, and then gets them in the system. The team pre-approves them, sends out the pre-approval letter, and they wait till they go into contract. There's very little difference between that and click button, get mortgage, except for maybe a 5 to 10 minute conversation. So, we should win that business every time against that person. And the key is asking the right questions. So first you want, and if you just go into the e-learning platform and type in client intake or dreams and goals, we have trainings on how to ask those questions, the strategy of asking those questions, the document used to ask those questions. All the things that you need are in the e-learning platform to learn all this. So if people want another one of those trainings, then email support and we'll calculate how many people want them and we'll work them into the strategy session. But this is just kind of a reminder of what we need to be going over. So you need to make sure that every client you talk to about savings and investments, right? Money management, retirement planning, and path to financial freedom. Right? It's got to be a part of the conversation, because without it, you're not doing a holistic job, right? You're just like, how can we really tell someone what they should put as a down payment on their home unless we know these things? How can we tell them what type of mortgage they should be in unless we know, how they're doing in their retirement planning and when they want to retire? Like we can't give the advice and guidance that we deserve, that the client deserves, unless we know this information. Now, sometimes we need to know this for qualifying, but we only need to know if they have kind of the base amount for a down payment. And outside of that, most loan officers don't care about liquidity or post-closing reserves or, emergency funds or liquid, like none of that, right? They just, do you have enough money to qualify? Great, let's go. That's just a shortcut that people don't deserve. So make sure to get into this and ask all the right questions there and explain why you're asking those questions. Hey, I'm not asking these because I need you to qualify, but Mr. Smith, it would be irresponsible of me and almost like a breach of my fiduciary responsibility if I just gave you a loan without knowing this information, because then I couldn't give you the advice and guidance you need, right? And then good luck when the next person talks to them and doesn't ask this question. Like, what person in their right mind would want to be the 64% who has regrets, as opposed to, the 46% who doesn't? Is that right? 36%. I think I'd be better at math. Next thing you want to talk about is insurance, right? So I'm sure a lot of people have a regret that they were underinsured because they just got the cheapest insurance policy. One of the things, and here's kind of a pro tip, if everybody wants to write this down, because the cost of lumber has gone up so dramatically, most people, if their house burnt down right now, could not afford to rebuild their home. So what does that mean? That means that you should send a video to all of your clients, and hopefully you guys took me up on starting your own insurance company. And if you still want to do that, reach out, let me know. We can put you in touch with the insurance company. But even if you have or you haven't, tell your clients, hey, everybody, important service reminder here. As an art of homeownership professional, I've committed to helping you in every aspect of real estate or finance. One of the things we've became aware of is that because of the high cost of lumber, a lot of people's cost to rebuild their home has gone up substantially. So if anything happens to your home, the current amount that your insurance provider will cover wouldn't actually be enough to cover the cost to rebuild your home. So reach out to your insurance provider and see if you need to increase that coverage based upon what the current cost to rebuild your home might be. So yes, it may cost a little bit more, but I promise you it will be way less than if something catastrophic happens. If you have questions, let us know. Please, take that step, and we're here to help as always, but hopefully that helps, right? Send that video out, and you've added more value than any other mortgage professional probably has ever, right? Because most people don't do those types of things. So again, make sure they have the appropriate type of insurance. If you don't know if they have life insurance, how can you confidently tell them what their mortgage payment should be? Can you tell someone who's got a 56% DTI and no life insurance that it's a good idea to buy a house? What happens if someone passes away and they can't afford that home? All the work they've done, all the hard work and the savings that they put into buying that home, it's just gone. Same thing with disability, which has like a 40,000 times more likelihood of someone getting disabled than dying in the actuary tables. If they can't afford disability insurance because their mortgage payment's too high, did you really help them, or did you just sell them a loan? Right? If they're approaching, retirement, are they going to be able to handle medical insurance in retirement? Do they know what that looks like, and how is that going to impact their living? Umbrella insurance, do they even know what that is and know how important it is? Right? Their 16-year-old gets an accident, they lose it all because they didn't have a $30, a month umbrella policy. So it's important that you know all these things and get training on all these things, which is why we have financial planners come on. That's why we have insurance agents come on, is we help people, be smarter as real estate and mortgage professionals. Next thing is estate planning, right? Do you really want to tell someone if they should take cash out or not, or if they should bring cash to close on a refinance if you don't know if they have a will or a trust? Because an average will or trust is going to cost anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 or $4,000, depending upon the size, scale, and what part of the country you're in. So if you could help someone create an estate plan or a will or a trust along with the refinance, just by simply getting an extra couple $1,000 or not having them bring that money into close, I think that would be a valuable benefit to provide to someone. But if you don't ask the question because it's not important to qualifying, you're just the same as everybody else, right? So ask that question. And then again, we did a whole training on financial puzzle pieces, right? As you're asking these questions, they become financial puzzle pieces that you're getting. When you get them all, your job is to put that puzzle together and present it back to the client in the best, most beautiful way possible. And if you don't know how to do that or you need help doing it, please let us know, because our commitment is that art of homeownership professionals are going to be the smartest, most holistically based, real estate and mortgage professionals in the country. And if you don't feel, if you're not confident that you're that person, then fix it. We'll help you fix it. We'll bring people on to train you on it. Generational wealth planning. Again, ask what's happening with parents, what's happening with children. Are they college savings? Are they helping children, with the cost of, private schooling? Are children going to be buying homes at some point? Do they want to help them with that? Should they co-invest in real estate with their children? And then what's happening with parents? Are they going to be a hindrance financially, or are they going to be helping you financially? Are they going to need to move in with you at some point? Are they going to need long-term care at any point? How is their medical situation? All those things are going to impact what type of home somebody should buy, what type of payment they should have, what type of savings they need to set aside for. So that's why you have to ask those types of questions, because otherwise someone's going to come back to you 2 years later and be like, hey, look, I know I just bought this 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, but comes to find out my parents are insolvent and they don't have any money, and I didn't know that, but now they have to move in with us. So now we have to sell this home and buy a new one. Now they lose money on, commissions and costs, and who knows what happened to the price. They may have to pay capital gains if it's underneath that 2-year time period. And then they're going out paying closing costs multiple times. And it all could have been avoided by asking the simple right questions and having them do a little bit of due diligence first. That's probably a pretty massive regret that people would have. Next is investing in real estate and real estate transfers. So know what investment properties look like, how they should be structured, how you should be able to schedule cap tables, what happens on a 1031 exchange, right? How homes can be passed through trusts. All this stuff is going to make you invaluable to your clients and to your real estate partners. And again, I would probably bet 50% of mortgage professionals don't have a good grasp on this, or most of this, but probably especially that. If not more, that may be a low number. So make sure you understand that. Tax planning, incredibly important. Are people going to have tax benefit or tax burdens that they're not aware of? Can they save money in taxes by utilizing a different strategy? Should they, knowing that rates are going to be likely coming down, should people be paying points right now? Right? Because they can tax plan that, but then the rate's going to go down, and that's not going to help them from a tax perspective or a savings perspective over time. And then home renovations, accessory dwelling units, be really good about working with your contractors, making sure you know what the best home renovations are, what accessory dwelling units are, when they're helpful, when they're not, when they can be used, when they can't. All good information as you're talking to your clients. And if they know you as the person who handles all of this stuff, or is at least highly competent in all these things and then refers out to the right people, I just don't know a world where your business doesn't explode. But if you're just selling loans and you're hunting for more people to sell loans to, first of all, that's not what we committed to as art of homeownership professionals. And secondly, it's going to be a hard, long life in this business, right? But if you know these and you have a good grasp on them and you can educate and help people get in the right place, it becomes a much easier and more fun game. All right, we got a question here. Pinky says, would love to have deep dive training on how to specifically help them more holistically, how to guide on insurance, how to incorporate generational planning, estate planning to give advice on mortgage decisions now, and guiding them when they need to ask the professionals to make referrals. Okay, I read that fast. So each one of these things requires a pretty significant level of training. Now, we can train everyone on these things, or what I would advise would be, if you don't have people that are helping you in your life with all these things, like if you don't have a financial planner or a financial planner that you partner with, maybe you don't want a financial planner, but you want to partner with one, go ask them to train you on them. Who better to help you with it than the person that you're going to work with, either personally or professionally? Right? Same thing with insurance. Do a deep dive on your insurance, right? Do you have the right life, disability? Because I'll tell you what, I've listened to 1,000 people talk about all these things, but I've learned by far the most when I've gone through all of them on my own. I knew about estate planning, I knew about the high level, but I didn't know nearly as much until I created my own trust. Right? Like I didn't know nearly as much about generational wealth planning until I talked to my estate planning attorney and my parents about what that looks like, and then started planning with my financial planner for my children. Investing in real estate yourself. It's not like, talk to a real estate agent, talk to a real estate investor, talk to a 1031 exchange accommodator. Like this should be just a part of what you go through, because we could have a bunch of people come on, and we have, right? Like you can go into the e-learning platform. We've had estate planning attorneys on, we've had financial planners, we've had CPAs, we've had insurance professionals, all these things. But you're just listening to someone talk about big picture stuff, and it always sinks in and hits home a little bit more when it's something that is done with you having agency involved in it. So I will leave it up to you all. If you want to take that approach, awesome. I think it's going to be the best one. But if not, then we'll bring people on, and each one of them is going to be an hour, right? So it'd be an hour over here, an hour for this, an hour for this, and so on and so forth. So it's going to take us a while to intermix them. And I don't really want everybody to have to wait 6 months to get through all these things, because we already have kind of a cadence of our training schedule. But we will do it. It's just, I think you can get it done in a more appropriate way, in a way that benefits you more, in a way that benefits your clients, and your understanding and your your ability to keep that information fresh will be higher because you've met with those people. Robert saying, is there a PowerPoint presentation in the Learning Center that could be used for real estate agent teams? I was considering doing the wealth workshop, how to guide for them. Yes, there is. So we have a real estate agent presentation in there. We have a couple different videos on how we've done it. We call it game film. We use them in our company. Anytime somebody is, meeting with a real estate agent or CPA or financial planner, we always film it, and then we share it with the group. And so some of them I was able to share on Art of Homeownership. So go through there, and if you can't find what you need or you're looking for it, just email support. And then if you need more or are looking for more, let us know, and we can incorporate it into what we're doing here. All right, moving on. I think that was, credit analysis improvement. So you don't have to have the algorithm in your head for credit analysis, but you do need to know what improves people's credit scores. You do need to know what hurts people's credit scores, how they can build credit, best practices and strategies. And definitely have a good credit repair or credit advice team that you work closely with. I know they're few and far between in terms of reputable and good, but when you find one, hang on tight, because they're going to be wildly impactful for your business. And they'll help you in ways that, you don't need to be the expert. You just need to know the expert, and you need to know some of the basics, just kind of like anything else, right? Any of these other categories. So make sure you know all these. And then when you're marketing to people, when you're talking to people, when people are asking you why you, this is all why you, right? Like, does anybody here think that buying a home makes someone successful, or do they think that all of this is what makes someone successful? So why would anyone work with a mortgage professional who doesn't do all this when it's very clear that art of homeownership professionals, mortgage and real estate professionals do all of this? The only difference is some of you may be talking about it, some of you may not be. Death and divorce. Apparently they keep coming. I had a lot more. So death and divorce is another really important one. What happens when a family member passes? What happens in a divorce? I'd recommend everybody becomes certified in divorce mortgage planning and divorce real estate planning. I think it's a 50% divorce rate nationwide. I'm in Orange County, which has a 70% divorce rate. So not only is there opportunity to earn business, but there's opportunity to help a lot of people who are going through some challenging times. And if you're the person who's known for that and you do all the things as an art of homeownership professional, it's just yet another way to help somebody as a holistic professional. All right, that was all of them. All right, now using answers to be true advisors. See what time it is here. Got 15 minutes left. I got to hustle. All right. So once the questions are asked, then what? This is the financial puzzle piece portion of it, right? You have this information. The good news is people aren't looking for answers on the spot, right? Like when I meet with a financial planner and I give him all my information, no one has ever said, okay, well, now here's what I recommend. Never happens. Estate planning, same way. They did an intake and then we scheduled a secondary meeting. Insurance, intake, secondary meeting. Trying to think of anything else. Contractor, give them the specs, secondary meeting. It would actually shock me and I would be way underwhelmed if somebody gave me the information and then I gave them the diagnosis and I painted them the picture on the spot. Because how much thought goes into it at that point? So this is the really good news. All you have to do is ask the right questions and then write down the answers. And then what you do from there is you engage people who can help you. Go to your manager and hopefully they are good at all this stuff. Go to your CPAs, finance planner, estate planning attorneys and say, hey, here's the situation. What would you do here? This is what I was thinking. How would you structure this? All right. Go to other mortgage professionals that are, that you really respect and admire, that have an advisor heart. Go to other real estate professionals who really know the transfers. So like, go get the information and then come back and present it. And that's how you learn. But you won't ever learn if you don't ask the right questions, because asking the right questions forces you to get the answers. Right? You're not going to ask someone about their finances and they say, yeah, we really want to get better at that. We want to do more in terms of retirement planning. We just haven't focused on it yet. You're not just going to say, all right, well, good luck with that. Right? You're going to solve the problem. So give yourself space and time. Don't be concerned if you don't know the answer immediately. If you don't know how to structure the mortgage the best way possible, or if you feel like you're missing a piece, then ask follow-up questions or ask for advice or guidance, and then go deliver it, right? And this is where the consultation comes in handy, because you can really deliver that consultative advice. So I just put an example. If parents are going to need to go into a home or move in with them, etc., what are the next steps? This is really how you're a true advisor to your clients, right? So the question is how to be. I think I've already answered it. It's really, asking the right questions and going to the ends of the earth if necessary to get the right information. And look, it may slow you down a little bit. You may not be able to sell as many loans, but what I promise you will happen is that you'll never need to market again, right? You'll never need to spend money on marketing. Every single client will have social currency to go tell everyone else they know about you and what you do and how you do it. And at that point, all you do is figure out the scale aspect of the business, right? And that's the team building portion of it. And that's the easy part, right? We figured that out. We have the blueprint for team building. So don't worry about it taking too long and you not being able to get to as many clients. Just make sure it's done correctly, and we can figure out how to get to the right clients over time, or get to the right number of clients. And then having a consistent cadence of connecting in order to stay their advisor for life. This is just, this is the annual reviews. It's the 3-month calls. It's the 6-month calls. And then when you do an annual review, right, and they say that they need this, that, or the other, or this is their goal or their plan, don't wait for another year, right? Follow up 2 months later and be like, hey, did you connect with the financial planner? How did it go? What questions do you have? Or help make sure that financial planner gives you feedback and involved with the client. So when there's tasks to be done and things to be done, we're good at that. Like we can put that in our CRM. We know, if someone wants to buy a house or refinance, we're going to put it in our CRM. We're going to follow up with them. The same thing should be true for every other aspect of their real estate and finance. Just most people don't take the time to do that. So make sure the cadence is there and you stay connected. All right, we don't have a ton of time and I'm running short here. I apologize. We have about 11 minutes left. I want to take some time to talk about our trade up FAQs. So, we went over the trade up program a few weeks back and we've had a lot of questions on it. One of the questions is covering the cost of the client's current mortgage and rent payment to Revive, who's the financing company. Let me go back. Sorry. So the way it works, essentially, I own a home, right? I own a $500,000 house. I want to go buy a $700,000 house. I can't do that without selling my house first because I need the equity in order for the down payment to qualify to buy the new one. So what I do is I get fully underwritten by you, and we'll talk about this in a second, by an art of homeownership mortgage professional. I get fully underwritten for that $700,000 house. And as an art of homeownership professional, you have to take into consideration the 3% jump in price, right? So it'll be 721, not 700. You have to figure out, will it appraise there? And if not, kind of where will it appraise? How much they're going to get from their departing residence, right? So let's say I'm going to get, $150,000 from my departing residence. So now I have $150,000 to use on this next new home. But if it's 721 and it's only going to appraise for 650, well, then I need to use, I have $71,000 difference. So of my 50 or my 150,000, I'm going to use 79,000 for the down payment, and I'm going to use, the other 71,000 to cover the delta. Does that make sense to everybody? That's how you have to really, you have to be really good at approving them for that new home. And then what happens there is once the client is fully underwritten and approved, Revive feels confident that they can buy that new home for the client. And then within 3 days after the offer gets accepted for Revive's cash offer, the client has to sign their purchase contract from them and their lease agreement from them. And the client then has to pay their mortgage on their current home and the lease on the new home, but they don't have to pay the lease on the new home until the transaction closes. As soon as they sign the purchase agreement and the lease agreement, they should list their home immediately, right? So there's hopefully there's not a lot of, it's going to take about 2 weeks to close that purchase transaction. Hopefully their home goes into contract in a day or two, right? Because that's what homes are doing these days. So hopefully there's not a huge difference. And we all know that when you buy a new home, you don't start a mortgage payment for usually a month or a month and a half or 2 months, depending upon the closing time frame. So hopefully at worst, they may have to pay 1 month of mortgage and rent. And Revive bases the rent on the new home based upon just a rent survey, right? So they'll look at rent surveys in the area and they'll come up with a market rent strategy. So the client's going to pay rent on the new home. They're going to pay their mortgage on the departing residence until that departing residence sells. And then they're going to get a month off of their mortgage and they won't have a rent payment anymore. So hopefully it'll pretty much even out. But it's true, if that home takes 2 months to sell or 3 months to sell, then yes, they have to be prepared to double pay. But most people would be happy to do that to get into their new home. Any questions on that? I have one question. I just lost my mouse here. All right, something in the chat. I'm having major issues with the DOT in Colorado. Of the deed of trust, it doesn't apply. One of my agents is talking to Jeremy with Revive, but have you had issues with that in new states? I have not heard of that. Not sure. Are you talking about maybe a flip strategy, or I'm not sure what the issue is, Lori? Is it being able to buy from? If you want, we can unmute you and you can talk. Just let us know. Or we could take it up. Guys, you want to unmute Lori, please? And add her as a panelist. You guys know how to do that?
Ryan, I made you the host, so I don't think I can do that anymore.
Oh, got it. Okay, let me go find Lori here. You can say the host moving forward to make me the co-host. Allowed to talk. All right, Lori, you're up.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So the deed of trust is a California, the way that it's written, it actually applies to a California property. We don't have an option agreement in Colorado. So it's the security instrument against their existing home. And so it doesn't apply and doesn't fit our Colorado language.
Interesting. Okay, I'm sure that's just something they would work through. So they may have to work through that, but our team, AOH team, if you can just make a note to reach out to Revive and figure that out. I want to make sure we get that resolved for everybody. But thank you for bringing that up, Lori. It's good to know.
Yeah, thank you. She's talking to Jeremy at 12:15 today, so our time. So hopefully we'll have some kind of resolution, but it'll impact everybody. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right, next is qualifying while adding the 3% fee. How does that work? So I just talked about it, right? You just want to make sure that, if they're going to buy a $700,000 house, you want to qualify them for a $721 house, right? That's the 3% fee on top of it. And then you factor in the amount they're going to get from their departing residents. You look at comps, you make sure that they have enough money if the comps come in low, and you just do all that work. You make sure they're fully underwritten and approved, which I'm going to get to here next. You see what that is. Okay, here we go. So one of the things we've done with Revive is you have to realize, like, Revive is taking a pretty substantial risk buying a new home for someone and then just hoping that person can buy it from them. So if they don't have a qualifying lending partner, then they're going to require that that person gets fully underwritten with their lending partner that they trust. In full transparency, it happens to be our group. But what we've done is we've let them know if it's an Art of Homeownership mortgage professional and they have a full underwritten approval from an Art of Homeownership professional, they do not need to be, they don't need to be cross-qualified, right? So we don't need to do secondary work. So that gives you guys a pretty substantial leg up, right? You can tell your clients, hey, look, we're partnered with them. As long as we fully underwrite you, this deal will work. But if you're not fully underwritten by us, you can't really take advantage of the program unless you're qualified and fully underwritten by somebody else, and that's a process. So does anybody have any questions about that? I think that's incredibly important to know. But I don't want you having someone who's pre-approved and then they want to go write this offer and they say, well, we can't do it because they're not fully underwritten. And then, it becomes this massive challenge. So I want to be clear on that. Questions, comments, feedback. That's why this program isn't like an immediate, fast program. Someone can't come to you and say, ooh, I want to buy the house. Can they buy it for me? Like, it takes time for them to be fully underwritten up front. So what you would do is you'd say, Mr. Buyer, I'm happy to help you, but it takes time. So tell me what purchase price you want, right? So if they want 700, they say, okay, let's qualify you for 750 just to be safe. All right, that way, if you find something at 715 or 720, we have that 3% number built in. Let's make sure we're good. So I would just max approve them if you can. Right, so figure out what their total max qualification is and TBD underwrite them and approve them for that maximum number. That way, anything that falls below that works. But you have to get a net sheet from the sale of their departing residence. Ideally, get that from the listing agent or from the agent who will list that property. Make sure all fees and everything are included in there, so we have a good, accurate assumption of what that number is going to be. Hopefully, they sell it for more, but want to make sure that's clear for everybody. And then again, the client does not have to cross-qualify if they're fully TBD'd by a Art of Homeownership professional. If they're TBD'd or pre-approved or anything else by someone who's not an Art of Homeownership professional, then we're going to have to cross-qualify that person. There we go. All right, before I get into that, and I'm going to have to burn through this, any other questions on trade-ups? I'm a broker, not always possible to do TBD for underwriting. How else would you do? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I would hope that you can just use whatever broker or outlet will allow for that. But if they're only pre-approved, you have to understand that risk that they're taking. And so it becomes a real challenge for them to, they're basically fronting, $700,000 in this example. So hopefully there's an option as a broker to be able to do that with one of the outlets. But if not, I'm not sure. I don't necessarily have the answer. But Robert, we can take that offline and try and figure it out for you. Okay, so moving on here with our 1 minute to spare. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to kind of go into just a real quick mindset strategy. One thing that's going to be incredibly important is understanding where confidence comes from. Confidence comes from, in my experience, and in most experiences, winning. right? When you are influencing people and your influence works and they choose you to partner with as a lending professional, as a mortgage professional, as a real estate professional, they choose to use you as a client. The more that happens, it's not about the trophy or the accolades, right? It's not about the things you see people post about their production. It's about the grind. It's about the obstacles you've overcome, the challenges and pain you've endured along the way. That really leads to the confidence, right? It's just like this unforgiving race to greatness that everybody has to go through, right? And so one thing to note is that in order to win, you have to know how to lose. So when you get a client that says, I'm going to go another direction, I'm going to work with another realtor, I'm going to work with another lender, or you're talking to a CPA financial planner and they don't decide to partner with you, don't just dust it off and try again, right? Stay down for a second, right? Learn from what you've done. Like, why did they not choose us? Was I not clear on my value proposition? Because if you're clear about what we're doing in our platform, you shouldn't get a no. And if you do, you have to like stay down and deal with that pain for a second. Ask yourself why. That way, the next time you get up and try, you do it better, right? Or you do it more completely. And that just builds a ton of confidence. So every time you lose, what do you gain from it? And how does it become a confident strategy to really overcome and really start winning at a high level? So hopefully that helps everybody. You should have more confidence than anybody else in this industry as a real estate and mortgage professional. You should use that confidence to your advantage. Your clients will appreciate it. Your business partners will appreciate it. And at the end of the day, your team and yourself and your family will benefit from it. And ultimately the clients will as well. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys today. Have an amazing rest of the day. And if there's anything else we can help with, please let us know. So I'm a minute over here, and we'll look forward to chatting with everybody soon.